I think we need to be creating models at every level that we can in our lives, in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in our institutions, and sharing those models, because that's really what's going to move ahead. One of our models is a neighborhood community we're calling Agraria, which we're building in our town of Yellow Springs, Ohio, which consists of the very small and energy efficient passive houses designed to not need heating or cooling systems, and integrated with gardens that provide much of the food in the neighborhood. Importantly, Agraria is going to be based upon an interdependent social and economic system. So the idea of prioritizing that within the neighborhood, those relationships, as well as within the greater community. And so it really is, since it will be part of our small town of Yellow Springs, we view it as the educational and cultural center to help transform and transition our town to a post-peak oil community, and as well as a model for the re-ruralization. You know, how can we move masses of people into real work, into land-based and to locally focused lines of work, and where will they live, how will they live, how can they live using as little energy as possible, and how we can rebuild the infrastructure of our country. So that's one of the models that we're working on. And another model which we've talked about, which we made the film about, is Cuba. Cuba, while consuming about an eighth the energy of the average American, Cubans have the same lifespan, a lower infant mortality rate. Cubans have a higher literacy rate and more teachers and more doctors per capita than the US. In 2006, the World Wildlife Fund noted that Cuba was the only sustainable nation in the world. They're the only ones that had low resource use combined with high levels of well-being. What Cuba really is proof that we can live well with less. We talk about what Cuba did in our film, but we also talk about how they did it. When the crisis hit, the Cubans didn't hope for someone to come and save them, even their own government. They took the initiative in their communities and survived, revitalizing exchange at the local level as they transitioned to a much more agrarian economy. And this is how I believe the change is going to take place here, not from above, but from within, from individuals and communities and eventually entire nations, pioneering a new way to live on this planet and planting the seeds of the sustainable future that we have to live in. And to close, I'd like to end my talk and this conference with an epitaph, thought kind of appropriate, a bit grim. The following is inscribed on a tomb of an Anglican bishop in Westminster Abbey, and it's from the year 1100 AD. It says, "When I was young and free, and my imagination had no limits, I dreamed of changing the world. As I grew older and wiser, I discovered that the world would not change, so I shortened my sights somewhat and decided to change only my country. But it too seemed immovable. As I grew into my twilight years, in one last desperate attempt, I settled for changing only my family, those closest to me. But alas, they would have none of it. And now, as I lie on my deathbed, I suddenly realize, if I had only changed myself first, then by example, I would have changed my family. From their inspiration and encouragement, I would have then been able to better my country. And who knows, I may have even changed the world." Thank you.